Today on Cooking with a Lion, I'll be showing you one of my favorite wintertime salads. Plus, I'll be sharing with you how to get the most out of your citrus. And it's all happening right now. Let's get started. The first step in this delicious salad is to get started on your vinaigrette. So what I've done so far is I've diced up a medium shallot, pretty darn small. And the reason that I'm going to get this started early is I want to sort of like calm the heat that comes from that shallot. And the best way to do that is to use some sort of an acid. So I'm using red wine vinegar, lovely flavor, in addition to fresh orange juice. Now, kale and orange juice go beautifully together because they're both winter different types of produce. So actually, kale gets more sweet, as does orange. But with the oranges, it looks a little weird, right? What I've done is I actually already zested this orange because I like to do a lot of baking. So I took the zest off, wrapped it up, and just kept it in the fridge. That's a way to really utilize the most out of all the citrus you have. So all I'm gonna do is cut the top portion off, same with the bottom portion. And I can actually just sort of like squeeze this like a little cheek. Don't throw away this even tiny amount because there's a lot of juice still left in here. Now what I wanna do, I have a flat surface on the top and the bottom. Now, all I have to do is just run my very sharp knife along the natural curve or the circumference of the orange. And this is step one in supreming an orange. And a supremed citrus, any sort of citrus, in this case orange, just has no pith associated with it and really just all those lovely cells of juice. And that's what I want you to experience when you're dining on this lovely winter raw kale salad. Now I'm removing this white portion because this portion is the pith and it has a little bit of a bitter quality to it. I want this all just to be sweet and dreamy, lovely. So now that the pith is out of the way, I can actually see the segments between each of these little portions here. So I'm right-handed, so I'm gonna go down the left side of a segment and then find the second one, the right one, and then it just slips right out like that, okay? I'm gonna work my way all the way around the orange, just making sure there aren't any seeds in there, and every time you hit one, just pull that thing right out, and it falls out beautifully, okay? This is a great method to use if you're using it for desserts as well. Here we go. Beautiful. And what a joy to get one of these beautiful, juicy slices. And don't toss this portion either. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and squeeze all the juice out of here. And if there are any seeds, I can just simply catch them in my hand. So you've got this fresh orange juice, and red wine vinegar, and together it's just a beautiful harmony of flavor. Where's that other cheek? There we go. Now this can all go in the compost, but these beautiful supremes, they can go in this vinaigrette as well. Okay. So I'm gonna clean all this up and we'll move on to the next step. On to the kale. It wouldn't be a kale salad without the kale. Now, the reason why you wanna use kale in the winter time or early spring is because the cold weather, those cold snaps over the wintertime actually reduces the bitterness and pumps up the sugars. So if you don't like kale, don't give up. Chances are maybe you had a kale salad in the middle of summer and it might be a little bit bitter. The best way I find in order to strip the greens off of these stems, because these stems, we don't want them in our salad, is to actually think of it like a sock. I'm gonna go ahead and hold the top of this stem, sort of like grab the rest of the leaves and then just pull it straight down like that. So you're left with a stem that you could discard or put it in the compost, and everything else is just dreamy. It's all just greens, okay? So I have these two stems, and actually I went ahead and banged out a couple more stems ahead of time. This doesn't look like that. No, it doesn't. This is where some really lovely knife techniques come into play. If you've ever seen me with fresh herbs, what you'll see me do is what's called chiffonade, where I'll take the herbs, in this case, leaves of kale, and I'll simply stack them on one another, all right? And then roll them up into a big kale sleeping bag, like this, okay? and just really, really thinly slice it. And the texture that you get is so fluffy and it's so light. It's nothing like the really heavy, chewy stuff that you've had in the past. And it just breaks down beautifully with that wonderful vinaigrette that we have macerating with those shallots in that bowl. And that's it. Take a look at this. Fluffy. Have you ever used the word fluffy when describing kale? Well, now you have. Now all I have to do is just finish up with this kale, and then it's time to assemble the salad. That is just so beautiful. When you add the kale and you see the reflection of the orange behind it, a little bit of shallot, maybe it's just me. Maybe I get excited about how beautiful sometimes food can be. And the great thing about this kale is it'll hold up beautifully in the fridge for a couple days. You don't have to use it all at once if you don't feel like it. If you have guests coming over, have it ready. Then what else goes in here? Well, now we start to play with textures and flavors. I really like nuts and seeds, so I'm gonna go ahead and add some. These are all roasted and lightly salted. We have sunflower, almonds, which I chopped up a little bit, and then of course pumpkin seeds, they go in. All right. That's just, it's just so lovely and get a nice crunch. Speaking of crunch, but it's like crunch but a little juice. Carrots, just some really lovely sweet winter carrots. They go in. Apples, another staple in the household during the winter time. All I've done is I've cored it and just in a small dice. That looks beautiful. And already I'm just like, want to go in there, but not yet. I want some creaminess to go in. That's where avocado comes into play. I've simply just cut the pit out, and then I've sliced the avocado, made little squares. So when you want to use your spoon and just slice it out, you get all these beautiful little squares, already ready to go. Let's start with just half, okay? What else do we have? We have dried cranberries. It's like a sweet tart, not just sweet all the way, home run style, but just a little sweet tart. And a nice chew, which is just such a wonderful contrast to a lot of the pops and the crunches we have in here already. And a bit of extra virgin olive oil. Now, if you were to have guests come over, you could stop right now because it's the oil and not the acid that breaks down the tissue of greens. So you can cover this up for probably a couple hours and then add the oil, and we'll mix it all together. And then we'll sort of just kind of taste it for salinity, maybe a little bit of black pepper we'll add. It just depends upon your guests. And you can keep this vegan if you want to, but I have an extra little pop of flavor over there, and that is some feta cheese. When you look at the way I'm dressing this, I'm not using tongs, I'm using my hands. Because I feel like your hands are so much more delicate, and they won't bruise anything, you won't crush any of those beautiful orange supremes. That looks really nicely mixed. There's only one way to find out if it needs seasoning, and that's to taste it. Just a touch of salt. Season it from way up here. Give it a quick mix, and that should be good to go. Now I plate salads the same way that I mix the salads, with my hands, okay? This hand's still pretty dry, it's still very clean. So when you present someone with the salad, here we are. It looks really nice. Make sure you get all the stuff from the bottom too, because that's where all the nuts and the seeds are. And then just go ahead and just gently put it right over top. Top it off. Then we'll crumble the feta right over top. Now I didn't add the feta and then mix it all together because I find the feta gets broken down a little bit too much. And plus this is just such a visual boom of contrast. All right, wash my hands and then we'll dig in. I like freshly ground black pepper. It's one of the things I love about restaurants. This whole little more, just right. Thank you so much. Now we dig in. There's just so much color and flavor staring at me in the face. It would just seem inappropriate not to just go for it. And this beautiful orange supreme, I'm going in. This kale salad is bringing sexy back to kale. Every bite, there is so much going on. You have this vacillation between sweet and then tart and then bitter and then crunch. The nuttiness from the almonds and those salted seeds is just lovely. And on the other side, for that crunch, you have this creaminess of the feta, but also the avocado, which smooths the whole thing out. The acidity is like, hello, with that red wine and fresh orange juice, but then you get the bite of the actual orange supreme, and it just is magic. There is so much going on. Sweet tart, the chew of those dried cranberries. I don't know, I can go on and on and on, but I'd rather do this, 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 and this. I really hope you try this out. And when you do, let me know if the technique of thinly slicing the kale makes as much of a difference for you as it does for me. Cheers.